Rain pounded my windshield as I sat in the parking garage, staring at my phone. 23 missed calls. Just 2 days earlier, Richard Wells had looked me in the eye and said I wasn't ready for a promotion. Now, everyone at Pinnacle Systems was calling like the building was on fire. I'm Michael Patterson, 49, and until that conversation, I thought I understood exactly where my career was heading. I was wrong. I've been at Pinnacle Systems for 8 years, after 12 years in the Navy handling logistics. When you're responsible for delivering supplies to ships halfway across the world, you learn quickly that details matter. Every system, process, and backup must work perfectly. That mindset served me well in corporate life, perhaps too well. When I joined Pinnacle, the operations department was in chaos. My predecessor had left without documentation or handover notes, like entering a house where someone had cut all the wires and removed the labels. I spent 6 months rebuilding everything: late nights, weekends, mapping processes, and creating detailed guides. My son, Jake, was 7, about 5 years after my wife, Sarah, passed from cancer. He often asked why I was always at work. I told myself it would pay off eventually. Work hard, keep your head down, get recognized. That's what they say, right? For 8 years, I ensured operations ran smoothly. Urgent client requests, I stayed late. System crashes, I fixed them. Broken processes, I rebuilt them. I created training materials, documented workflows, and became the institutional memory of the department. Richard Wells became my boss 3 years ago. A capable, strategic-minded leader, but he never learned the systems I managed. Why would he? Everything ran perfectly, leaving him free for executive meetings. What I didn't know was that Richard had other plans. His son, Austin, 26, a recent MBA graduate, had never worked in operations, never handled a crisis at 2 a.m., never explained delays to clients, never rebuilt a system from scratch. The promotion meeting was a Tuesday. I presented a detailed portfolio. Efficiency improved 35% over 2 years, errors reduced by 60%, and I personally managed Granite Industries, an $8 million client. Richard glanced at it for 5 minutes. I appreciate everything you've done, Michael, he said without looking up. But we need fresh perspectives. Austin will join next month as Senior Operations Manager. Senior Operations Manager, the role I had worked toward for 8 years. I asked where that left me. You'll continue in your current role. Austin will need someone experienced to help him get up to speed. Translation: I would do all the work while his son got the title and raise. I kept my expression neutral. I understand. Thank you for the feedback. Richard smiled. Austin starts Monday. Maybe you can prepare orientation materials over the weekend. Something clicked. 8 years of weekends missed, baseball games skipped, school events ignored. They wanted me to prep my replacement. I stood, shook Richard's hand, and walked out. Not back to my desk, but straight to the parking garage. There, I made a decision that changed everything. I wouldn't quit in anger or make a scene. I would do something far more effective, follow my job description exactly as written. That Tuesday evening, I drove home and did something I hadn't in years. I turned off my work phone at 5:30 p.m. Jake was shocked when I walked in at 6 instead of 8 or 9. Dad? Why are you home so early? He asked. I decided my time is more valuable than I realized, I told him. Want to throw a baseball before dinner? His face lit up like Christmas morning. Wednesday, I arrived at exactly 9 a.m. No briefing notes for Richard, no preempting the day's crises. I answered emails addressed to me and forwarded everything else to the relevant departments. Calls about processes outside my responsibility were politely redirected. By lunch, people were noticing. Janet from accounting approached, puzzled. Michael, did you see the email about the Granite Industries shipping conflict? I did, I said, continuing my quarterly report. Can you fix it like usual? That's actually a logistics coordination issue. I forwarded it to shipping and procurement. They'll need to work it out, I explained. Her eyebrows rose. But you always handle cross-department issues. I'm focusing on my core responsibilities, I said with a smile, trying to be more efficient with my time. Her confusion confirmed my point. No one had bothered to understand the difference between my actual job and what I'd been doing for years. By Thursday, cracks were showing. The Granite Industries issue escalated because shipping and procurement couldn't resolve it. 3 other clients had routine requests sitting unresolved because proper escalation procedures weren't followed. I observed like a detached scientist. Every unanswered email, every transferred call, every urgent request stuck, all documented in the operations manual no one had read. Peter from procurement approached, frustrated. Michael, the Morrison Industries purchase order is stuck. Can you fix it? What's the problem? I asked. The system won't accept their new billing address, and nobody knows how to override it. I nodded. Covered in Section 7 of the Operations Manual, it requires supervisor approval from procurement and accounting. It'll take hours of calls and emails, part of the company's fraud prevention protocol. Peter stared. You've always fixed these in 5 minutes. Yes, I said, with special authorization from previous management, but with the upcoming restructuring, I'm following standard protocols. He left, shaking his head. Thursday evening, I was home by 5:15 p.m. Jake was at the kitchen table with homework. Dad, can you help me with this math problem? For the first time in months, I had the mental energy to focus. We spent an hour together, and I realized how much I'd missed these simple moments. You seem different this week, Jake said. Different how? Less stressed. You're actually here when you're here. Smart kid. He noticed what I was only beginning to understand myself. Friday morning, the real crisis hit. I arrived at 9 a.m. to find chaos. Richard pacing, Austin overwhelmed, and Byron Fisher, the regional director, called in. 2 executives from corporate headquarters were there. Michael, Byron said, relieved. Thank God. Granite Industries has an emergency. What's the issue? Richard began explaining, but only half of it was accurate. Austin took frantic notes, asking basic questions. The Q4 rollout was at risk, and Granite threatened to pull the contract if it wasn't resolved that day. I reviewed the details. Straightforward, if you understood system dependencies and documentation. This is a known issue with their configuration, I said. Resolution is in the implementation guide, section 12. It requires coordinating changes across 3 systems in sequence. Austin flipped through his manual. Which section exactly? 12, subsections 4.7 through 4.112, I replied. About 3 hours if procedures are followed. Byron asked, can you handle this immediately? I checked my watch. My quarterly compliance review was scheduled at 11 a.m., mandatory for federal regulators. Granite is important, but missing the regulatory deadline incurs penalties and license risks affecting all clients, I explained. The room went silent. Byron leaned in. What would it take to handle both? I calculated. Most critical fixes could happen between compliance review sessions, but full resolution wouldn't finish until after 5 p.m., tight with Granite's deadline. In the past, I'd have stayed until midnight, but I'd been reflecting on balance. My son had a baseball game tonight, already missed twice this month. Byron spoke carefully. Michael, what would it take to handle this like you always do? I looked around the room. For 8 years, they relied on my expertise without acknowledging it. Now, suddenly, my work-life balance was the emergency. Well, I said, we need to clarify what my role actually is. Richard snapped, your role is to solve operational problems. I replied, according to my job description, I manage daily operations within assigned scope. Granite implementation is project management under a different department. The corporate executive leaned forward. Are you saying you won't help? Not refusing. I'm saying proper resolution requires clear responsibilities. Austin starts Monday. This is an excellent learning opportunity. Austin hesitated. I don't think I'm ready. I reassured him. Every expert was once a beginner. Documentation is detailed, and I'll guide you. Richard grew impatient. We don't have time for training exercises. Actually, we do, I said. Granite's issue has been building for weeks. A few more hours won't change the outcome. This is an opportunity to develop capability instead of enabling dependency. Byron studied me. Something has changed in your approach this week. I nodded. I've been reflecting on my career and legacy. I've enabled a system that doesn't work. Solving problems outside my role prevented proper processes and staff development. Silence fell. I continued. What happens when I retire, get hit by a bus, or take another job? The corporate executive's eyes sharpened. What job offer? A competitor offered director of operations last month. 35% increase, fully remote. I've been loyal, but I'm considering it. Byron and the executive exchanged glances. Richard looked ill. Perhaps we should discuss privately, Byron said. Austin, review Granite documentation with Michael. Others, follow me. As Austin and I walked to my desk, he said, "I never asked my dad for this promotion. You deserved it." I stopped. This isn't about what you asked for or deserve. It's about what's best for the company and you. Premature promotion would have set you up to fail, not because you're incapable, but because you're not ready. Austin nodded slowly. I hadn't thought of it that way. We spent the next hour reviewing the Granite documentation. Austin was attentive, asked insightful questions, and grasped the concepts quickly. With proper mentoring, he could become a competent operations manager in a couple of years. Around noon, Byron returned and asked to speak privately. The corporate executive was also present. Richard was absent. "Sit down," Byron said. "We've made mistakes managing this department." "What mistakes?" I asked. The executive explained, "We created an unsustainable dependency on your expertise without proper recognition or compensation. Personal relationships influence professional decisions." I listened. Byron continued, "We'd like to offer you the Director of Operations position, reporting directly to me, with a 35% salary increase, authority to restructure the department, and full hiring authority for 2 senior positions." It was fair and realistic, recognition and authority I deserved. "And Austin?" I asked. "He'll start as an operations associate and advance on merit. Richard will transition to strategic planning, with operational departments reporting through you. Accountability without revenge." "I need time to consider," I said. "Of course, but please help stabilize Granite today," Byron added. I agreed. Austin would assist and take detailed notes. That afternoon, Austin and I worked on the Granite crisis. I guided him through each step, explaining both the procedure and its rationale. "This is complex," he said. "How did you learn all this?" 8 years of trial and error, I replied, plus many late nights studying manuals no one else wanted to touch. He was surprised. I had no idea it required this level of coordination. My dad made it sound basic. "Operations is about understanding system interactions and anticipating failures," I explained. Austin seemed humbled, genuinely absorbing the lessons. By 4:30 p.m., Granite's system was stable, and Austin had thorough notes for future reference. I was packing up when Jake texted, "Dad, game starts at 6:30. Will you really be there?" For 8 years, the answer would have been no. That evening, it was yes. I watched Jake pitch 4 innings and strike out the cleanup hitter with a curveball I had taught him. Afterward, we got ice cream and talked about school and summer plans. "Are you going to keep coming to my games?" he asked. "That's the plan," I said. For 8 years, I'd missed moments like this. Now, I wouldn't. Over the weekend, I weighed Byron's offer. The director role gave recognition, authority, and the ability to build systems that allowed others to advance. Baxter Industries offered a fresh start, no history of being overlooked, no preconceptions. By Sunday evening, I decided. Monday morning, I arrived at 8:30 a.m., a compromise between my old 7 a.m. routine and the strict 9 a.m. schedule. I went straight to Byron's office. "I'm accepting your offer," I said, "with 2 conditions." "Go ahead," he replied. "First, full authority to hire and develop internal talent. Too many capable people are overlooked because of position, not skill." "Agreed," Byron said. "Second, implement comprehensive cross-training. No critical knowledge should reside with only one person." Also agreed. Finally, Austin should succeed if he chooses, but through merit, not connections. Byron smiled. "He's more committed than we expected." The transition took about 6 weeks. I restructured the department around clear roles and responsibilities instead of the informal who handles it best system. I hired 2 senior staff members who brought fresh perspectives while I provided the institutional knowledge to make them effective. Austin proved to be a dedicated learner. He stayed late, not out of obligation, but to truly understand the systems. Within 3 months, he managed routine client issues independently and showed genuine leadership potential. Richard, freed from operational duties he didn't understand, excelled in strategic planning. His big picture focus, combined with the operational foundation we were building, helped the company secure 2 major contracts. 6 months later, I worked a sustainable schedule, home for dinner by 6:30 p.m., present at all of Jake's remaining games. My team operated independently, clients were satisfied, and I finally performed the role I had always been capable of. One evening, Jake asked about my work. "So you're really important now?" "I was always important," I said. "It just took others a while to realize it." Is that why you worked so much before? To prove it? Exactly. But I learned that those who matter see your value without you overextending yourself. Those who don't, you can step back and let them figure it out. Watching him work through algebra methodically as I'd taught him, I realized the real lesson. The best response to being undervalued isn't anger or revenge. It's making your worth undeniable. The promotion to director of operations came with authority, recognition, and compensation. But the greater achievement was simpler. I was finally seen for my abilities, and I could be fully present for my son. If you've ever felt invisible at work despite excellent performance, remember this: your value doesn't vanish just because others can't see it. Sometimes the most powerful move is to stop carrying the weight of their blindness and make your contribution impossible to ignore.